Welcome back to a special episode of the ABL review, where we're going to be focusing on ad drops. So, as usual, starting out with the South. So got a couple of Terra Captain changes to talk about. Please permit me. I don't remember all of them exactly, but we have London Dragonites. I think they changed one type on Decidueye. I think they changed this flying type, might have been Fairy or something like that. They also changed Bisharp. I believe that Fairy type may have been Fire. But those are the only changes out of the London camp. Santa Fe also did very slight tweaking. I want to say this Altaria used to be a dark type and they changed it to Fairy. LA made a couple of big changes. They kept these Sandslash ones all the same. Ambipom used to have Terra types, they moved that. And then I think it said Mischievous and Rotom Fan have them. But let's talk about the ad drops that London made LA made since we're right here. So, this Landorus used to be a Gliscor. Changed it to Landorus. Obviously, same typing, much bigger offensive boon. Still decently defensive, just kind of in a different way. Much better as a pivot, going to come in on those physical attackers. You turn out and get some momentum. It's got a lot of momentum, let's see. These 5 Pokemon, 6, 7 Pokemon in this team all get pretty good switch initiative. So that should be something that he can hopefully take advantage of. Put him in good position. Speaking of this Pokemon that gives a switch initiative, Talonflame. So this used to be Chandelure. So also keep note that he freed up an extra point. So he's still got 3 ad drops to go. He's probably going to make use of that point at some point in the season. Talonflame used to be Chandelure here. Obviously, he already has a Ghost type, much lower budget, but he does have one. Kind of another flying type, but he didn't really have a lot of flying types. The Talonflame gives him a lot more utility. It gives him a Defogger, which he didn't have before, and it still gives him that Fire type, which I would say is honestly very good defensive type, considering how we see it on quite a few teams as their Terra types. I think he was talking to me a little bit about this. I think this is defensively probably a lateral move. Talonflame's much better defensively than Chandelure. Landorus isn't that much worse defensively than Gliscor, so I think it's kind of a lateral move there. Offensively, he obviously loses a little bit of special power, but Galarian Slowking's nothing to sneeze at. Primarina's obviously very good, especially offensively. Archaladon, I know that it seems like all it can do is Iron Defense and Body Press, because that's all we saw it do that one week. But don't underestimate its special offense, and especially because if we go over to Minnesota, a certain Weatherbird is no longer on the team. Minnesota has dropped Pelipper and Pecharunt to pick up Iron Boulder and Smeargle. Now they had a point left over, so that's how they were able to make this happen. Obviously, ditching the dual weather. Dual weather is hard to make work. Like, it's a lot of juggling, and it's like you're kind of in the middle between 2 different play styles. And the other thing I like about his team is he's not super hard committed to the weather. He doesn't need sun to function. It's just a big help. And now that he has other hazard setters and other hazard clearers, he's not as reliant on Torkoal as he was early in the season, where I'm like, hey, you have to bring this, He can now just bring it when he wants to boost up Walking Wake and Ogerpon. I think Iron Boulder, Araquanid, Ogerpon, Mandibuzz, Walking Wake, Smeargle, that's enough of a team that is threatening to deal with. He doesn't need the sun. People are still going to calc for the sun and figure out ways to deal with Torkoal, but it's less of a necessity now because of the way he reoriented his team. Still has not used Stellar Terra type. Waiting to see it. But he's in a good spot in the South right now, so he hopefully has found a spot that he's comfortable with, because out of ad drops over in Minnesota, this is the team they're going to be rolling to playoffs with should they make it. So I think that wraps up analysis on the South. Let's move over to the North. So before we get into the transactions that happened down in Miami, let's look at some of the Terra changes that we see through the rest of the league. So Alabama, they've been switching up their Terras week to week. Never know what they're going to bring. I really like this nice grid of Terra types here. Looks nice, doesn't it? I don't know. It's it's hard to do a deep dive on like why these Terra types, so we're just not going to do it. I think it was Morpeko, Gumshoes, and Carbink, and now it's Redress Mudsdale Carbink. Done a good job in Alabama of having a lot of options for what can Terra. And since he's being so proactive about having different Terra types, I think it's going well for him. Wait a minute. Oh, I was like, didn't he made changes, but it was a trade, so he didn't have to burn any transactions. So that's just another dangerous thing that you can watch out for in Alabama. I know that they're down, their record is down right now, still in the playoff hunt, and especially with all their transactions left, could be big movers and shakers. Seattle Marinis made changes last week, and then just a couple of tweaks to their Terra types this week. Beartic stayed the same. I think they added a normal type on Crocolore, and then changed one of Drifblim's types. I don't remember which one. But they're obviously, on a resurgence. They've won 3 in a row after dropping their first 2. Needs to keep those wins up going down the stretch here. But also, I will say, I heard that they're interested in making some changes, despite the fact that they did that big shuffle. So if somebody likes what the Seattle Marinis have, maybe if you have transactions left, a sign-in trade could be. You could do an ad drop and then trade it over to them if you see stuff that you like, right? Just keep that in consideration. I like to facilitate trades. So yeah, there's that. What else we got? I guess it's probably time to talk about craziness in Miami. So, first of all, you see a lot of changes here. Terra types changed galore, but really, what I want to dive into here is how he submitted his transactions, which I think is probably the way that everyone should be doing them in the future, just because I think it's nice, right? So here's what we got. This is how I received these transactions. Now, to some people, this may be the ravings of a lunatic, right? But I think this is probably just the smartest way to do everything. Look, Espathra was 14 points, Incineroar was 11, Porygon 2 was 9 points. All that adds up to 34 points. They've been sitting on this extra point since the draft. And why? Now. The time is now to pick up Excadrill at 16, Hippopotas at 2, and Landorus I at 17. That totals 35 points. They accounted for it. It's all there. Here's their Terra captains. Hippopotas becoming Water Furry and Rock type. Smeargle, Ghost, Stellar, Normal. Altaria, Fairy, Steel, Ground. Very smart plays. And a lot of changeover in Miami. Obviously trying to make a big push. They're also down in terms of what their record is. They really need to make a push here. Very important. I don't think they haven't had their bye week yet. So they've got 3 more games. Am I doing all this wrong? No, I'm doing this right. Yeah. So they've got 3 more games and a week off. They need to probably get at least 2 wins, and they probably got to be like important wins. I'm not sure who he has left in his schedule, but needs to go on a run here, and I think he can do it. Like, Urshifu and Excadrill before were no slouches, right? And, Incineroar and Espathra, granted he just picked up Espathra recently, but, they were threatening, but not on the same level of Excadrill and Landorus I. And those 2 Pokemon by themselves are pretty strong. I've always been a little bit down on Landorus I, but it is what it is. 17 points seems expensive for Landorus I. Why do we do that? Because he can't use Sheer Force, right? Hold on. Let me make sure I'm not being crazy. Right? Complex bans. Landorus I. Sheer Force is banned. 17 points? Why did we... I don't know. That seems high. That's something that we need to examine. Oh, no, it's got Nasty Plot now. I forgot. It's got Nasty Plot. Right. So, very good special attacker. Sand Force compounding on that. Something to watch out for. Excadrill, fantastic physical attacker. Like, these things can really build up and give people problems. On top, and I didn't even mention Hoopa Unbound. I think the only problem with this team structure is you're going to want to bring these Pokemon a lot of the time. That's 6. That's your whole team. You got to find time. You got to find which one of these guys you're leaving on the bench, so that way you can bring out like Smeargle on the weeks where you need different hazards. or Cryogonal's probably not making the cut much anymore, even though it's like, I think Cryogonal's actually secretly pretty good. Not even secretly. I think it's just a kind of a good mon. It's fast, specially defensive, gets recover and rapid spin and haze. Good utility mon, right? And freeze dry. It's not weak either. Sing the praise of this snowflake all day. But that pretty much wraps that up. I think that's all we need to talk about. Hopefully you guys like this new format. Since I have a bye week and I got a little bit of time, I'm off this weekend, so I might be throwing a little like special presentation together, especially for some of the newer people in the league. I don't know, and also for the older people, just kind of refamiliarize yourself with some concepts of team building, right? Probably not something a lot of you need, but some people need it. So, and also just for fun, right? That'll wrap us up. Thank you all for listening. See you next week. Goodbye.